Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be doing a striking tier list in the UFC. So this is not all time. This is 2025. Currently, they are in 2025 where these fighters rank on my striking tier list. So yeah, this is not every single fighter in the UFC. This is not even all the best strikers in the UFC. I'm pretty sure I missed a few, maybe 20, 30. I don't know. But I got a good list. And I'm going to rank that list that I came up with, from S to D tier. So from S to top, the D the lowest. So yeah, let's get right into it. I got my tier list up and let's get to ranking. So I'm put it like right here, maybe right there. All right, then we're good with that. Now let's get into tiering. So let's start from the bottom and then get to the top. Well, let me start from the top to go down. I'll do it that way. Mighty Mouse, he's not in the UFC anymore. He's retired, but I'll rank him based on all time. And even where he was when he left, I'll say A tier. I want to say, like, pure striking wise, he's like, oh my gosh, this guy could be a boxing world champion or could be, like, go really far if he just did boxing. Probably, possibly, but skill by where he was at is a fully well-rounded fighter. Yeah, I wouldn't see it. Like, and I'm pretty sure he could have, but based on where his skills were at, not to say that they aren't that great, he's a very solid striker, but I would say he's definitely, he's not a striker, he's not a grappler, he's an MMA fighter, so I don't think he's necessarily on the S tiers of striker. But again, a very high-level striker, elite fighter, probably the most technical fighter, pound for pound in MMA history, still to this date. But yeah, I give him an A. I think he has good striking all board, and I think he could strike with the best fighters in the game, especially when you add in the mixed martial arts for sure. So A tier, I think that's a good spot for him. Dustin Poirier, I'll put him at A tier as well. I think he, pure boxing, I think he's a better striker than Mighty Mouse. But overall strike, I think Mighty Mouse is better than him. But this is not is he better than this guy, better than that guy. I think Poirier, I think he's an amazing striker. I think we're kind of limited to that is, I feel like boxing wise, if we're just saying boxing, yeah, he might be S tier if we're just saying boxing. Like MMA boxing, not like overall boxing, like pure boxing, like in a Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Devin Haney, those people. I wouldn't say he'd probably be like a D tier among those people. But MMA striker, MMA boxers, probably S tier. But as far as overall striking, I feel like he's very limited to his hands. I don't feel like his kicks are all that good, except against McGregor. Other than that, I think his kicks are very limited, very weak. I think he's a great boxer. Again, overall striking, I would say A. I do think his striking is very limited to his boxing. Again, he has other skills with his striking, but again, I think outside his boxing, I think his other skills as far as striking are pretty mid. So I think that's why he's at an A. Again, even that's still good. Being kind of a little bit one-dimensional in the striking department, to still be an A tier fighter when you're just kind of one-dimensional, even that in itself is a flex. So I'll put Poirier at an A tier. Volkov, I'll put him at A tier as well. And that might confuse some of y'all, because y'all like, oh, Poirier, he's the greatest. Poirier is such a fan favorite. But again, there's weight class, this and that. I think Volkov is a very elite striker, especially given that fact that heavyweight to lightweight, the skills are different there. But as far as at his particular weight class and what skills bringing, even outside of just where he's at weight class wise, been a guy that's like, 6'7", probably walk around 270, 265, big guy like that. He has very good speed for the weight class. Solid power, good volume, good ring IQ as far as his striking, good shot selection. So he's a pretty solid striker. He's a dangerous guy for anyone in the striking department at heavyweight. And anyone, because, heavyweights, anybody can get it. So for anyone in the world in MMA striking, he's a problem. So at A tier, I think he's a good A tier. He definitely got his flaws defensively. But as far as striking, I think he's one of the best strikers in the game right now, especially, again, at heavyweight. And again, heavyweight is anyway. So if any of these lightweights got a question or wanted to argue with him or prove something, he could definitely beat on these little 5'4", 5'7" lightweights, 155 guys. And yeah, but as far as, again, I think his skills hold up, particularly in striking. And they're evolving as well in the grappling, but this is purely about striking. Islam Makhachev, I'll put him at, let me see, CB. I'll put him at C. Now I'll put him at B. Makhachev, he's a solid striker. I think it's more so his grappling that gets the threat of his striking. He's definitely much more well-rounded than Khabib was ever and will ever have been, or would have ever been. But I feel like most of the threat of his striking comes from the threat of his grappling. But yeah, it's functional. And he definitely have a lot of sloppy moments, like in the Moicano fight, at points in the Oliveira fight. His striking is very, very sloppy and very low skilled. Even in the Poirier fights, look very stiff at times, that fight on the feet. But again, I believe we just talk about him as a fighter, he'll be S tier. But I think as far as pure striking wise, I would say I think he's at like a B tier. Pure striking wise, B tier. He does have a good well-rounded skill set as far as striking. He got good kicks, good knees, good punches. He's not just a guy that he's just a boxer. He's not just a kicker. He has punches, the knees, the elbows, the kicks. He has a full well-rounded striking game. But I just don't really see him as that great of a striker. Again, he's a overall fighter. You can say the same for Mighty Mouse, but I think Mighty Mouse striking is much of a much higher level than Makhachev, or at least it's notably better than Makhachev. So it's a different echelon in my opinion. Benoit Saint-Denis, I'll put him at C. Benoit is really a pretty sloppy striker. I think his skills on the feet are pretty low tier, to be honest. But, he's aggressive. He'll get in your face. He'll take a shot to give a shot. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about him. He's a solid fighter. He's a ranked lightweight. He's solid and all, but I don't really rate him that high as a striker. So C. Calvin Kattar, C. I think Calvin Kattar is a dynamic striker. He definitely has his moments where he can look higher than that. He can look like a B tier fighter. A B tier striker at times. But I feel like he gets a little bit too predictable. He gets a little bit too dependent on the jab, and he gets kind of one track minded. So the skills are there, but a lot of times he just gets very predictable, very limited, and limits himself. And that's also why he is where he is at in his career right now. He kind of is becoming like a gatekeeper at this moment, or has fully settled as a gatekeeper. But yeah, I'm not going to yap about everybody. I'll be in here for 4 hours if I did that. Sergey Pavlovich, I'll put him at a C as well. Pavlovich, I really don't rate his skills that much as a striker. He's pretty much a headhunter. I don't rate him as very much a technical striker. Obviously, he's not a D, but a C, I'll put him there. Big power. He obviously get hard. He got some speed on his punches, but striking selection and striking skills, the fight IQ or the striking IQ, I don't really rate it that high. I just see him as a guy with a lot of power who's going to swing and put it on you. But if you can stick and move and not just be there to be hit, you really see him fall apart. Like Volkov literally just picked him apart and had him frustrated. He couldn't do nothing to him because Volkov had a limp. He was a better striker, quicker than him, better shot selection, and Pavlovich couldn't get nothing off on him because, again, the guy wasn't there with his hands down, there to be hit. He was sticking and moving, stabbing with the jab, stabbing with teeth to the body, and Pavlovich had no answer for it. I'll put Michael Johnson at C. Michael Johnson, high to cold fighter. He could beat the best fighter. He could lose to the worst fighter. But amazing speed, and he still has amazing speed even this late into his career. Pretty good boxer. Good kicks as well, but mainly his hands would get the job done. But yeah, I feel like, C is where he's at, At times he could look like an A. Some nights he could look like an S, but overall you average it out, he like a C. So that's why we'll put him in that. That's all I'm going to say about Michael Johnson. Again, could beat the best guys, can lose to the worst guys on any given night. But fast hands, pretty good boxing, pretty solid kicking game as well. Shot selection can be a little bit better. He can be a little bit predictable. He gets especially early on in his career when he kind of fell in love with the 1-2 so much he would just spam it, and he was still getting it off because nobody could deal with his speed. But they take him down, easy sub, could catch him sometimes. But yeah, Michael Johnson, amazing talent, but I'll put him at C. Charles Johnson, striking wise, I'll put him at B. I feel like Johnson's an amazing striker, amazing boxer, particularly. Good kicking game as well, good cardio, good defense. Well, really, mainly where Johnson loses his fight, outside his last fight, which I feel like he still could have got that one as well, is really him getting taken down and held down. But as far as striking wise, it really hasn't been too many people that really clearly beat him in striking. And even in his last fight against Timurov, I feel like he was still the better striker. Timurov just won the minutes, or landed the heavier shots or threw the heavier shots. And that's what was more telling to the judges. But as far as if that was a fight for, 25 minutes, he definitely would beat him. Matter of fact, I think he probably would have, as far as striking wise, I think he probably could beat just about every single person in his division. And maybe even, I'm going to say, in his division, I think 25 minutes, I think he can beat everyone in his division pretty much. In a pure striking match for 25 minutes, I think he can beat everyone in his division. So, pure strike, I think he's a solid fighter. Again, where he lost most of his fights have been grappling. He did drop that loss to Timurov. It is what it is. He was too economical, and he didn't engage quick enough, and that lost him a round 2. And that lost him the fight. But yeah, solid fighter, solid boxing, real clean defense. And probably, if you just study his striking, out of everybody on this list, not going to say more, I'm not glazing him too much, but He has one of the more cleaner, fundamental styles of striking, offense, defense, good jab, good footwork, good head movement, like the whole package overall. A lot of these fighters on this list, even some champions, some that. But again, this is MMA, so it's not about you're the best, most technical boxer. This is not boxing. This is not kickboxing. This is not Muay Thai. But for this list, this is just purely based off their striking skills, and I think Johnson is one of the most fundamentally sound strikers on this list, offensive and defensive, and IQ as well. But yeah, urgency could be a little bit better. That's about it. Charles, I was about to say Charles Van. Next one, let me look at my phone and mute it. It be ringing for nothing. Like I do not care about this girl's Facebook post. I did not turn on no notifications. Why are you telling me about it? They're telling me about everybody's Facebook. I do not care. Let me just delete the Facebook app. I don't want to get on it. But yeah, Joshua Van, I'll put him at B tier as well. Yes, Charles Johnson knocked out Joshua Van, but I do believe in the upside of Van. I think Van will definitely. I think it's pretty easy to say he'll be able to overachieve Charles Johnson. I think did he just get a ranking too? Don't quote me on that, but did he just not get ranked recently? Van did, or something like that, or something. But yeah, Van has amazing striking offense. His defense can be a little bit negligent. That could be cleaner, but offensively, he's a killer. He mixes good shots to the body and the head. Got good kicks as well, but particularly amazing boxing. And still very young. I think he's still like sub 25. So this kid, the sky's the limit for him. And also, what Johnson doesn't really have. Van has amazing scramble ability, amazing ability to spin takedowns, get back to his feet, and be able to put that value, put that pressure on you. And again, good body work, good jab. Again, the only thing I don't like too much about him is his defense, but I think over time that can improve. But yeah, I'll put him at B tier as well. But young guy, a lot of upside, B tier as well. Could be an A tier or S tier striker in the future, but as of right now, I would say B tier. Next one, Devison Figueiredo. I'll put him at B tier because this is the right now. Maybe in when he was a champion at flyweight, maybe A tier, maybe S tier. Well, I'll say A tier. I don't think he ever was like an S tier striker. But maybe when he was the flyweight champion, or maybe before he lost his last fight or his last two fights, maybe an A tier. But is it right now? 2025, coming off his two losses to Piotr Jan and Corey Sandhagen, who are also good strikers, great strikers. But I'll put him at B tier. I feel like his cardio can be a little bit bad. I think the way he kind of expends his energy with his style, he goes for a lot of power. Could be managed a little bit better, picking shots a little bit better. I think defensively he could be a little bit better. But overall, still a very solid striker. But I don't think he's not A tier. He's definitely not creme de la creme striker. So I think B tier is a good spot for him. And again, also, as far as just a fighter-wise, he's a full, well-rounded fighter. So don't be too caught up in the fact that I have him as a B tier, just purely focusing on striking. It's purely focusing on striking, B tier is solid. Especially given the fact that he has high-level BJJ. He can sub people as well. He can wrestle well. Again, all time he's an S tier fighter. But as far as right now, purely striking, I would say B tier. Brandon Moreno, I would have to say currently A tier. It's some things he can be a little better on, but I think he has a solid package as a striker. Good cardio, good pressure. Weird, awkward style, but it works. Like defensively it works, offensively it works. Can push a good pace. It helps that he has a sturdy chin, great cardio, good selection, good body kicks, good head kicks, good jab, good combos, and pretty solid fight IQ, pretty solid striking IQ. I think Brandon Moreno, also former champion, still a top level fighter. So yeah, he's a top level fighter overall, and in striking, I think he's a pretty solid striker. S tier, no, but A tier, I think he's a solid A tier striker. Josh Emmett, I'll put him at C tier as far as strikers. I think Josh Emmett relies too much on his power, and a lot of times you could tell he's looking for that one big punch or those two big punches. He's not really. It's pretty obvious to guys that have any bit of mental, they can see. He's clearly loading his hand up. Like he's clearly putting a lot of emphasis on that hand. He's clearly leaning that shoulder over, and they can exploit that fact, and they could capitalize and get a win over him. And that has been done multiple times. So solid fighter, but I think as far as striking, I have never been particularly amazed by him. More so his power, his grit, but not so much his skills or striking. I'm not really super impressed by his striking skills. But C tier. It works though. It has worked for him in his career. Next one, Merab Dvalishvili, I'll put him at a C tier. I don't think Merab was well. I would say his wrestling pretty solid, pretty solid, among the best. But striking wise, and even his wrestling again, really was Rob's best thing about Rob is his heart and his cardio. Like I said, he might be like you just go for pure skill wrestling. He might not be among the best wrestlers, but when you add that cardio, he is among the best wrestlers. He might be the best striker, but when he add that cardio, he'll outwork and outgrind that better striker or that fighter that does have the better strike and then has the good takedown defense. He'll just outgrind them and break them down. But I would say pretty solid striking, but it's always that constant threat of pressure, that constant threat of the takedown that makes up for it. So pure striking, I'll put him at C. Like, I do think he's a better striker than some of the other guys on this list at C. I think he's a better striker than Benoit. I think he's a better striker than Pavlovich. I even think he's a better striker than Emmett, in my opinion. But I'll say C. His cardio and his threat of the wrestling makes up for the fact that he has C tier. And he's obviously an S tier fighter. He has an amazing resume. He has been proving people wrong again and again, including me. So C tier striker, but obviously S tier fighter. But as far as striking wise, I'll put Merab at C tier. This one, I'll put Umar at A. So, back to back, you're like, what just happened? Did he not just beat him? Did he not kind of drop in fifth round? But it kind of was the cardio that broke him down and the pacing that broke him down. But as far as pure striking, I do think that I think that Umar is a better striker. And we've seen him able to, really beat Corey Sandhagen in a pure striking battle. And I think he's only going to get better as a striker. Again, but that's a kind of a questionable pick right there for A tier. But I will say that Umar is in... Will I? No. I'll take him down. I'm not going to say he's a C tier, but I'll say B tier. I'll put him at B tier. Because even in the Sandhagen fight, even though he wasn't always getting the takedown and the fight was largely striking, it was the threat of the takedown was constantly there. And that did allow him to... as far as the feet, like, he's an amazing striker. But he can be a little bit predictable. He can be very kick heavy, high kick heavy. Like I say, the threat of takedown, opens those things up. But as far as striking, he does spam high kicks a lot. He can be very predictable in that factor. But again, he has that amazing wrestling that, opens that up constantly because you got to worry about dropping your hands to defend the takedown. So the high kick can be open a lot. But he does spam that a lot. He does kind of have a big, loopy, sloppy kind of hook that he throws. It has power behind it. It's effective, but he does kind of spam. Again, he kind of spams the high kick a lot, kind of spams that hook a lot, that check hook a lot. But I think he's a solid striker. So I'll say B tier. Again, kind of like same with Makhachev. Like the threat of the wrestling opens up his striking. So pure striking, you got to kind of take away the grappling aspect. I'll say B tier. B tier is striking for Umar Nurmagomedov. John Silva, I'll put him at B tier as well. John Silva, he could definitely go up to A tier, go up to S tier, but right now I just think it's the level of competition. He hasn't really fought the best strikers yet. He's still, 2 years into the UFC? Again, the sky's the limit for him. I could see this guy as a future champion. I could see him as an A tier striker. I could see him as an S tier striker. But it's more so, who have you fought yet that could say, oh, have you beat this guy? Oh, did you fight Max Holloway? Did you fight a Volkanovski? Did you fight a Yair Rodriguez? Did you even fight like a Calvin Kattar or some of the better strikers like he just beat that what's his guy? Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell is a grappler. Melsik Baghdasaryan, amazing, I guess a decent striking background, but what has Melsik Baghdasaryan did in MMA to say, oh, his striking is this, his striking is that? He's a solid striker, and John Silva knocked him out. But again, I need to see him fight higher level competition before I really try to say, oh, you're a BA. But based on what he's been doing, I'll say B tier. And based off the skills I see in the striking, B tier. But again, it's the level of competition needs to uptick, and results have to match what he's been doing. So uptick in talent and matching what he's been doing against low competition he's been fighting. But again, he's gonna get to fight that competition soon. Maybe fight Ilia Topuria in the future. That would be at 45 or 55. Maybe get him Holloway 45 or 55. But Yair's still there. Get a Brian Ortega, who's not really that great a striker, but maybe a Lerone Murphy. Fight the better strikers in the weight class, and the higher ranked fighters. And then if based on how he does those, then future tier list, he could be A, he could be S. Next one, I'll put Ian Gary. I'll put him at a B tier. Solid striker. I think my biggest issue with Gary is defense. But offensively, he's a very solid striker. Very long. He knows how to use well those good combos. Has good reads, but defensively he could be a little bit better. But other than that, I think his striking is pretty solid, and he, does well with his frame, and he's, pretty much mastered his frame. I just drank a whole bottle of water with my throat drying out. But hey, I got like 100 more things to go through. Hopefully my voice can keep up. But it is what it is. Gary, I'll put him at B tier. And I'm going to go quicker again. I don't want to make this an hour-long video. And I still got most of the fights left. Carlo Prates, I'll put him at B tier as well. Obviously, there's levels. It could be like, oh, he's a B plus, he B this and that. But right now, to say he's a B tier. I think Prates, even this fight, Gary showed probably the best striking he's ever shown in his career in the Prates fight. But Prates showed a good ability to rally in the 4th and 5th of that fight. But I didn't think he was... With Prates, the power is there. I think the skill's there. But when he's fighting a higher level strikers like Gary, and higher level fighters like, again, of that level, he's got to be able to counter better. And he's got to be able to let it go earlier. Got to have more urgency, or he's going to fall into being like a Marlon Vera. He could drop from like a B tier to a C tier. But based on that was like the first real big step up in his career. And the fact that he did kind of come on stronger later in the 4th and 5th, despite being a chain smoker and all that stuff. Again, the offense is there, the skill is there, the urgency got to be a little bit there, and the counters got to be there. But I would say where he's at, I think he's a B tier. Again, Gary showed that he's the better striker in that fight. But as for overall, I think they're in the same bracket. Gary's better, but they're still B tier. And I think, yeah, different tiers of B tier, but they're both B tiers, is what I'm trying to get off to. Shavkat Rakhmonov, I'll put him at B tier as well. Again, levels. Shavkat beat Gary, Gary beat Prates, but I think they're all kind of in the same level. But, obviously there could be like, oh, Shavkat, Gary, Prates, but they're all B tier. I don't think none of them are C tier. I don't think none of them are A tier. I think they're all 3 B tier. Shavkat, I feel like his defense would be a lot better. I feel like he took way too much damage against Jeff Neal that he didn't need to take. And what did he do against? Yeah, he could be better. And I just feel like in his let me just make this quick about Shavkat. The skills are there. Like, he got dangerous striking, dangerous hands, elbows, knees, wheel kicks. He has a full arsenal. And then you can say he got submissions as well. So he's a dangerous guy. But I just feel like he has not looked the same way he looked, the same killer he looked. Again, the Gary fight, he did not look like a killer. The Jeff Neal fight, he looked dangerous at moments, but he also looked very vulnerable at moments. So I feel like he hasn't really had those performances against the level of competition that he's at, or, the skill, as far as the matches where, the key matchups, I feel like he kind of looked a little bit flat in them. So that's going to put him at a B. Again, if he had those same performances he was having against those guys when he was coming up, against like Gary, was stopping Gary, or at least was just dominating Gary, or, making it more clear in that fight, and it wasn't as close, then maybe probably like A. But right now, I just need to see more from him, and he's going to get that opportunity. But as of right now, I got to have him at B tier. Derek Lewis, I'll put him at C. It's not the most technical striking, but it works. And also it's a heavyweight. But yeah, it's not the most technical striking, but it works. He got big power, and he has the most knockouts in UFC history. He's beaten some solid fighters like Volkov, who I have at A tier. Beating Francis Ngannou. Like I say, you might not like it. It might not be your cup of tea. It might not be technical. You might have a lot of things to say about it, but it works. And I have a C. Like, technically, I would say C. But hey, he can knock out some A tiers. He can knock out some S tier if he connects. So, C tier, I think that's a good fit for Derek Lewis. I would not put him at D tier. I think it's C tier. Nasrat Haqparast, I'll put him at C tier. I think he's kind of like a middle of the pack fighter. Middle of the pack striker, middle of the pack fighter. And that's all I'm going to say about that. No great power. Not some super technical fighter, but I think he's like disbalanced. A balanced fighter. A balanced striker. Nothing too amazing. Nothing that, but balanced, good results. Again, middle of the pack. So, average, I'll put him at C. Dan Hooker, I'll put him at B. Super, like, especially that period of time, when he's fighting Dustin Poirier and fighting, who else was he fighting? Jim Miller. I feel, he's kind of getting another prime right now, it seems. But as far as that era, I feel like that's when he was at his most dangerous. He might be his most mature, most best right now, but as far as danger wise, that time he's fighting Dustin Poirier, he's fighting Paul Felder. That era of Dan Hooker in that first round, or first 2 rounds, or first 3 rounds, well, particularly first 2 rounds, he was probably like one of those dangerous fighters for anyone to face. He was a killer in those first 2 rounds. And then it was like his issue was like maintaining that in the third, fourth, and fifth. Like look at the Poirier fight. He was killing Poirier some points in those earlier rounds. Then the fourth, fifth round, he was just holding on. I think that happened in did that happen in I think that happened in the Paul Felder fight as well, but he didn't fall off as bad as he did in the Poirier fight in the later rounds. But killer early, fade late, and that's the issue. That's kind of deducting points from Hooker. I think right now he's kind of getting mature. He's coming on stronger later rounds. Where in the past that was where his issue was at 55, and particularly in 55 in that era. But yeah, I think he's a main striker. Could be a little bit better defensively, but and also cardio could be a little bit better. But yeah, these things are preventing him from being A, and I think also results are holding him from being an A. Like results, like you lost to Poirier. Who else he fought? You got stopped by past his prime Barboza, like stuff like that. What is your big performance? Like he hasn't had that big performance. He beat Gamrot just recently. Close fight, could have went the other way. I betted on him. I picked him. I made money on him, but Gamrot's a grappling. In that fight, Gamrot's striking looked good. Was holding up against you. It was, I think, actually probably had landed more strikes than you or something. But yeah, he just had to have that statement performance against an elite striker. I guess you could say Jalen Turner to some extent, but I wouldn't classify Jalen Turner as a truly elite striker based on his results. And the day, it all comes down to results. Had Jalen Turner shown these great results to really say he's an elite striker? No. Definitely dangerous, but doesn't have elite striker results. But yes, I'll put him at B. Definitely a killer, but not all the way there. Justin Gaethje, I'll put him at B. Definitely at points he could like an A tier striker, and definitely points you could say, oh, he could be an S tier fighter. But as of right now, I would say he's a B tier striker. At some point, you might say A, but I would say he sits firmly at B. He sits firmly at B for me. Firmly at B. Defense can be a little bit negligent, but he brings it every single time. Pretty technical striker. Heavy kicks. Good hooks. Solid jab. I'll put him at B. Ignacio Bahamondes, I'll put him at B currently. I think if he fights Gaethje right now, he'll probably beat Gaethje if they fought right now. But B, a guy with a lot of potential. The skills are there. Full well-rounded fighter, and only getting better with time. Sky's the limit. But, is it right now, potential-wise, and what he's shown, I'll put him at B. He could ascend to A, or he could fall to C, well, I'm not going to say D. The skills are there. To have D, the skills just don't have to be there. The skill, to be a D, the skills just not there. But I'll put him at B. Edson Barboza, where he's currently at, I'll put him at C. Still a tough, savvy veteran and all that stuff, but defense has always been probably one of the weak points of Barboza. It doesn't deal well with pressure at all. And still to this day doesn't deal well with pressure. He got some decent skills, some decent power. You can put him on the back foot and you can put his lights out or whoop on him. So, yeah, amazing offense. Defense has always been weak, and he's currently past his prime. Still a dangerous fighter, always dangerous, but I'll put him at C. Yeah, currently. Maybe all the time I'll have him at B, but currently, past his prime Barboza, I'll put him at C. Ilia Topuria, the first S tier. I'll put Ilia Topuria at S tier. And the results speak for himself. Like, he's under 20, he's under 20. He's under 30 years old. Champion with pound number 2, number 3. Knocked out Volkanovski and Max Holloway back to back. And no one has ever knocked out Max Holloway. He's the first to do it. Might be the last to do it. And beat a good version of Holloway. Beat a decent version of Volkanovski. And Volkanovski, as we've seen, once get knocked out from him, and he was able to get the belt back once Ilia Topuria left the division, and vacated the belt. But yeah, Ilia has amazing fight IQ, good reads, good combination, good defense, just the whole overall package of a striker. And I would definitely put him at S tier as far as strikers right now. So Ilia, I'll put him at S tier. Sean Woodson, this is really just going to base off your last performance. I'll put you at D tier. And also that fight where you were getting dropped, I think it turned into be a draw. Really, he'd probably be a C tier, but this is just based off some of his performances. I had to put him at D tier. Like, man, cut all that weight. Once he gets hurt, it's very hard for him to recover. Offensively, he has some decent jab, but even then, like, he has a lot of holes. I think it was a fight. It was a clutch fight. His last fight, was doing okay. He got caught and then finished. I mean, Ige is a good fighter, but again, this is more so just based on his last performance. I gotta put a D. The lack of recoverability, the timidness, and also cardio. But all the things kind of come back to the fact that he's cutting so much weight. I feel like his cardio could be bad at sometimes. So I feel like he can easily get predictable and fall in love with the jab too much. So cardio, get predictable. Terrible at recovering. Once he gets hurt, it's very hard for him to recover. Again, those two things, like recoverability or lack of recoverability and cardio, kind of link back to the amount of weight, because he's like a 6'2" featherweight. So, but yeah, I'll put him at D tier based on that. Obviously, he could be a C tier. I think he's a much better striker than Benoit, but again, somebody gotta go D. He'll go D. Next one, Junior Top. I'll put him at D. The man has no gas tank. We'll see how he does that light heavyweight, but the man has no gas tank. He was on the way to losing his last fight, and then he made it to the next round and was able to take out his opponent that was supposed to be a walkover. But he was struggling, gassing, looking very sloppy. It's like, do you even really want to be here? Do you really want to be a fighter? Like, and all you got is striking. Even then, you be gassing at the one thing you have and be looking sloppy at the one thing you have. So, Junior Top, I'm going to put you at a D. Like, come on now. You're supposed to come from a striking background. You box, you kickbox, you fought this guy, you did this, you did that. And even in kickboxing, I was studying him before he really had any MMA fights. The one kickboxing fight that stood out in particular, he gassed in that fight. He had a good little start. He did his little shots, but his opponent was doing well defending him, eating something to the body. And then all the pop went out of his punch, and his opponent just started to walk him down. Like, come on, man. Having cardio is one of the most important things for a fight. Like, that's all you do. At least have the cardio to do it. Like, come on, man. So, yeah, I'll put you at a D as far as strikers. Here's Adesanya, where he's currently at. I'll still put him at A tier. I know he had some bad performances. Like, he lost to Imaival. He was doing good in the first round. Got eye poked. Got stopped. The Dricus fight. The Sean Strickland fight. But all of the competition. Imaival could easily go on to be a champion. Strickland was a champion. Dricus is a champion right now. And he's doing great things. He's like top 5 pound for pound. So, he's not losing to scrubs. And no losses really age well. But in hindsight, they're not going to look as bad. So they're not aging well, but they're not going to look as bad in hindsight. Like Strickland, Duplace, like literally the creme de la creme of his division. He's getting up there in age. So honestly, I still think he's an amazing striker. I think there's so much tape out there on him, and I do think he at one point I think he fell in love with his kicks too much and let his boxing decline. And I feel like before that, I feel like he was an S-tier striker. I think all the time he's still an S-tier striker. But is he right now? Is of right now, because this is a right now list. This is not an all-time striking list. This is a right now. So somebody could have been an S-tier at one point. Like BJ Penn, like at one point, S-tier fighter. But you would say where BJ Penn was at the end of his career, you could say he's a D tier or C tier. But right now, this is a right now. I think Adesanya is still an A tier. He was giving good rounds to Dricus, and I think he was starting to have momentum. Then Dricus snatched it right back in that fight. And again, Dricus is the champion and doing amazing. Strickland fight was definitely just a terrible performance. Probably that was his worst performance in his career, the Strickland fight. The Maia fight, he was dominating the first round. Second round, he got poked in the eye, got off track, and he got caught. And again, Maia is one of the elite fighters in his weight class. So I still say Adesanya is A. I also don't like the fact that Adesanya, when we look at his record against strikers, is not the best. But all that being said, I still say he's the elite striker. He has the background in striking to prove it. He has the accomplishments in MMA to prove it. And I think all the skills are there. Still think he's one of the best strikers in the game. But again, he's definitely lost a couple steps, but I still would say A tier for Adesanya. Jeff Neal, I'll put him in the B tier. Pretty solid striker. Pretty dangerous. Only thing about him, I feel, could be a little bit better defensively. And he could want it a little bit more. He could have a little bit more urgency. I feel like a lot of these fights, the urgency is just not there. The Gary fight, the urgency wasn't there. The Shavkat fight, the urgency wasn't there as much. And not to say that he wouldn't have lost his fight regardless, but he definitely could have given himself a better chance. One Boy fight. There's another fight where, and also the Neil Magny fight. So he just had these fights where he looked like a killer, like against Bilal Muhammad, that fight. This fight, that fight. And he has these fights where is your urgency at? Again, defense can be a little bit better. Urgency can be a little better, but definitely a dangerous striker. One of the most dangerous fighters pound pound in the game, but I feel like the urgency could be a little bit better. And obviously he could be a little bit more skilled as a striker, but I would put Jeff Neal at B tier. Charles Oliveira, I'll put him at B tier. And I feel like it definitely comes back to defense. Like offensively, S tier. Like offensively grappling, offensively striking, S tier. Like offense. But as we know, MMA, as we know, matter of fact, MMA, striking, combats, everything, sports, it's about offense and defense. So you can't be a top NBA player or a top NBA team and just have no defense. You got to have offense and defense. You might be a more offensive-minded team, but the defense got to be there. And Charles Oliveira, again, S tier offense in striking and grappling. But as far as the overall, I think defensively, striking, pretty weak. Defensively, grappling, I'm not going to say weak, but it's given the fact that he has the most submissions in UFC history, you would expect his submission defense to be a lot better, but he's been submitted like 6-7 times or 5 times. Like, again, it's always come down to his defense. That's what's holding him back. So I would say B. I feel like his defense is extremely weak, especially in striking. But ultimately, it's S. I think when you average it all out, I think it's like a B tier. And he's improved his striking. Striking a bit, kind of just about butt scooting, which is not really improving his striking. Just you get dropped and sit on your butt, which is in a pure striking. That would be a drop and you would lose a point, or you would lose a point. You get dropped as 10. That's a go. You lost. That was originally a 10-9. Now that's a 10-8. You get dropped, you butt scoot again. That's a 10-7. Well, you get where I'm going, but yeah, I would say B tier striker. S tier offense, maybe like a D tier defense or C tier defense, but it averages out for me at a B tier. So where Oliveira is lacking, why he's B tier is his defense. And the fact that he kind of quits sometimes, has quit in me fight. He got hit with the overhand from Cub Swanson. He got hit with that little weak hook from Islam Makhachev. But, yeah, B tier. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, I'll put him at a C tier. I feel like he has good offense, but very dangerous striker, very big, very good accolades as a striker. But I think his issue is that he gets too predictable. Like, he limits himself. Oh, you're looking for that check hook. You're looking for that jab. Like, he gets very predictable. It's easy to neutralize him, as Cyril Gane did, as Pavlovich did, as Volkov did. Like, higher level strikers can neutralize you when we know you're going to come with a check hook. I know I got to respect the jab, but if I respect the jab, I'm not just stationary in front of you. It's going to be very hard for you to get anything off against me. So, good offense, but a little bit too predictable. And defense is extremely negligent. His defense is his offense. And when you understand that check hook and able to throw it off, he falls apart. So, yeah, I'll put him at C tier. Dangerous for sure, but he got a lot of weaknesses in his striking. Robert Whittaker, probably at one point an A tier striker, but I think right now I'm B tier. I think that just kind of comes to the point he's getting a little bit too predictable. And he kind of limits. So I feel like one area where Robert Whittaker is extremely weak is body work. His whole game is like really not any body work. Maybe some kicks to the body, maybe a jab, maybe a straight every now and then, but like really no hooks to the body. It's like as far as the striker go, it's kind of like the head and legs kind of. He's not really a guy that's gonna really focus on his body. Like the head is gonna be red. Like as far as his striking targets, the head's gonna be bright red. Like as far as what he's attacking, and the legs probably be like kind of pinkish, but head gonna be bright red. His combinations are very much head hunting, and a lot of his offense is based on lunging in and out, that karate style. But again, amazing fighter, but I think striking wise, he kind of stagnated. So I'll put him at a B tier. Alexander Rakic, I'll put him at a C tier. I feel like he has amazing offense. He has a big frame. He has a pretty good understanding of striking, but I feel like his toughness is not really there. His durability is not really there. Chin-wise, or even just his ligaments, like taking leg kicks, I feel like he's very breakable. Like, he's fragile. He's a big action figure, like 6'5", 6'6". He can dish out offense, but he can't really take it back. So I would say C tier for that. Maybe you say pure offense, maybe a B tier, but we add it all together, I think he's a C tier. We added in the deductions, I'll put him at a C tier striker. Aljamain Sterling, I'll put him at a C tier. Very questionable striking, but it works. Like, it might be what you like, but he finds a way to win with it and get it off. Like, even when he's not able to get takedowns, he's still able to win rounds, win minutes with his striking. He's very busy. He's very funky. Again, not the most technical striker, but it works. Maybe skill wise, maybe technical wise, might be a D, but functionality wise, he makes it a C. So I'll put Aljo at a C. Paddy Pimblett kind of similar to Aljo, but I feel like he's a much more lethal striker. And right now, he's making it work. He's improving with it. Defense is definitely the weakest part of his game. Maybe based off his defense, I should put him at a C, but so far he hasn't been made to really pay for his striking defense yet. When he starts to get made to pay for that, maybe he'll drop to a C. But right now, he's young. He's in his prime. He's looking the best he's ever looked every fight out. Coming off the best performance of his career. And also, unlike Aljo, Paddy Pimblett can actually hurt you and finish you on the feet. Aljo, I think, maybe hurt like somebody like twice in his career. Like, really hurt someone like twice in his career with his striking. But Paddy Pimblett, like I said, awkward striking, but he makes it work. And again, he can finish you on the feet, can finish you on the ground. Full-rounded fighter. Again, not the most technical striking, but again, very functional and very effective. And again, he can hurt you and he can finish you with his striking. And he has done it at a high level, so I'll put him at a B tier as far as his striking. Michael Chandler, probably at one point maybe an A tier striker, but I feel like this UFC version of Chandler, he just fell so much in love with the knockout, and he doesn't really set it up as much. He's kind of looking for that big shot all the time. And it's become very predictable at this given moment in his career. I would rate him as a C tier striker. The power, the danger is definitely there, but he's just so far predictable. And I really don't even think he's hungry. I just think he's there to make exciting fights. Don't care if he win or lose. He's just there for the check, and he's there to, going to be in shape. He's a company man. He's going to show up, but not really there to win anymore. He's just a showman. Sean O'Malley, I'll put him in an A tier as a striker. Durability could be better. Obviously, you can't really improve your durability too much. Very flashy striker. But let me see. What about him? Could defend leg kick a little better. He did show improvement in that leg kick defense against Oliveira in the rematch. What's holding him back from being S? I can't really say. What's really holding him back from being S? He could be S, to be honest. I really have no great explanation why he's not S. Is it right now? He's fought some elite strikers. He went in with Peter Yan. They had a back and forth fight. You could argue who won this way, won that way. But they both had their moments of fight, and both of those guys could arguably be S tier. But yeah, I'm not gonna get too much. I'll say A tier. Could be S. Maybe he was still the champion. Maybe S, but I'll just say A. A for now. Arman Siakarin, I'll put him at C. I've never really been super impressed with Arman striking. He's an amazing overall fighter, but I would say he's an overall package. I'm not super impressed with his wrestling. Really, the most thing I'm impressed with him is his scramble ability. That's the most impressive thing to me about him. He's a solid overall fighter. Again, he's an elite fighter. But as far as offensive wrestling, I'm not super impressed. Offensive striking, I'm not super impressed. Defense, I'm definitely not impressed. But scramble ability, amazing. Pacing, tenacity, amazing. But I don't really rate his striking high. I feel like it's striking like a low budget Robert Whittaker striking. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. He's a solid striker, but again, nothing super impressive. I think again, his pacing and scramble ability, his cardio, his overall package, which makes him dangerous. Instead of his wrestling offense is so good now. His striking, his ground, but nothing about him again, offensively really wows me. So I would say C. Cejudo, I'll put him at C currently. Not D. I'll put him at C currently. This is probably still going to be an hour-long video. It is what it is. Yeah, it's still going to probably be an hour video. But at this point, I think, Cejudo should have stayed retired. Came back. Had a good fight with Aljo. He came up short in. Rob dogged him. He had a good first round against Rob. Down that he just fell off. And then good moments against what's his name? Song Yadong. But I feel like at this point, Cejudo is becoming very predictable. And maybe if he would stay at 25, he'd have a better arsenal because maybe at this weight class he's just looking to load up and hit you with all his weight because he's a smaller guy. But I just feel like he's become very predictable. He's become very still, and he's declined notably in these recent fights, like last two. Again, he's just looking for a big right hand, just looking for that same big shot, and not really setting his shots up, not using his jab as much. and really just pretty much bite down the mouthpiece and just looking to land a big shot. And that's never going to rate high as a striker to me. Like some other people say, oh, that guy's bite down the mouthpiece. He eating one to get one. That don't rate high as a striker for me. That shows lack of skill and lack of options. So is it right now Cejudo C? Maybe at his best B. I don't think Cejudo was ever an A tier striker, but maybe at his best a B tier striker, B tier MMA striker. Let me see. What's his name? Christopher Curtis. I'll put you at a C tier. Christopher Curtis, pretty solid defense, pretty well-rounded fighter. Definitely a veteran out there. You know, hard to deal with for anyone. Like you can't just take him down and hold him down. You can't just do this, do that. Like he's gonna give you a tough out for pretty much anyone. But there's a path to beat him. His output isn't the highest, and people can definitely outwork him. Like you just like stay on your bike, you stick and move. He really can't do nothing to you. And yeah, Christopher Curtis got good power, good defense, good solid fighter, but the urgency's not there, the output's not there, and I don't think he's skill wise, even with all those things saying. I don't think he's an A tier striker, but that definitely like sits with him being a C tier. But yeah, for him, you know, it's not going to improve. Like he would mid 30s or whatever now, you know, 30 plus fights, 20 plus fights, been fighting for like 10 years plus. Not really much going to improve. He is who he is, but definitely something that could have helped him. Maybe even push him to B tier. Maybe could help him win some fights, more fights. Is better urgency or whatever, better output. But yeah, output is definitely one of his biggest weak areas, especially in striking. Marlon Vera, I'll put him at C tier. Kind of similar to Curtis, like where's your output at? But Vera does have the output. The thing is, he kind of waits too long to throw the output. Curtis just doesn't have the output in general. But Vera just doesn't throw it. He waits for these big moments. But he does have the cardio to throw it. He has the skill to throw it. But he just always looking for that big moment. And then if he doesn't get a big moment, he waits till later rounds to really start throwing heavier, throwing more, picking up the output. But yeah, Vera has the skills. Again, skill-wise, I still don't think he's an A-tier striker. Maybe skill-wise, he's like a B-tier striker. But that lack of output, lack of urgency, that has lost him many fights, and the majority of his fights has him at C-tier. Petr Yan, I'll put him at A-tier. And Petr Yan is just like a prettier Vera in a way. Like, his output, like, he gives up the first round to just about everyone. It takes him a while to set in. He's looking, reading, giving up rounds. But that lack of output definitely hurts him. The tendency to shell up all the time hurts him as well. But, you know, amazing fighter, especially when he's on the offense. If you say, like, when Petr Yan has you on the back foot and he's going, S-tier striker. But overall, I think that lack of urgency, that tendency to shell up, so quick to shell up in a very predictable manner, I think that all drops me down to A tier as far as striking wise for Petr Yan. So, is it right now, Petr Yan is A tier. Again, he has moments where he's like S tier striker, but right now, for me personally, I have him at an A tier striker. Fluffy Hernandez, I'll put him at a C tier. I'm not impressed with Fluffy Hernandez. It's more so cardio. The threat of the takedown and cardio. If anything, I feel like his striking kind of declined because at one point he was striking more than grappling, but then he fell in love with grappling. I think after that, what's that guy's name? He submitted that BJJ player. He really fell in love with his grappling and got a lot better there and continued to get better there. I think his striking declined. I don't think he ever was a B tier striker, but yeah, I would say C tier striker. It's the threat of the takedown and his pacing. It's not really like his striking is that good, and also he's very soft to the body, very weak to the body. I'll put Fluffy at C. Kevin Holland, potential man. I'll put him at B. I think he's a very solid striker, very overall dangerous fighter, especially offense, great offensive BJJ, great offense striking. Long and knows how to use it. Good hands, good boxing, good kicks as well, good elbows. Very creative. I'll put him at B tier. Very dangerous fighter. He just kind of like, and really when you look at majority of his career, it's been grappling. That's losing the bigger grapplers has been his issues. And we lost the strikers. Really been the creme de la creme strikers. He lost the MVP, one of the best strikers in the game. He lost to Jack Della Maddalena, champion now. Like when you look at who's losing the strike, he's losing to the best strikers. He's not just losing to anyone as far as striking. So I think Holland's a very solid striker, very solid overall fighter. And we look at who he lost to grappling, Khamzat Chimaev, Delize, like again, like creme de la creme grappling. He losing to creme de la creme grapplers at a higher weight class, and he losing to creme de la creme strikers at welterweight. So he's definitely one of the better strikers in the game right now. But the biggest thing for Holland, if he fully locked in, truly wanted to be great, I think he could be A tier fighter. I think he does have championship potential, but the time's winding out, and I don't see it happening now. Especially with him having like double-digit losses, I don't see it. But he could pull off some upsets. He could have some big wins. He could probably fight for a belt. But him winning the belt, a very hard, yeah, a very hard if, a very hard but, very hard question to say that. Oh yeah. It is what it is. It's gonna turn into an hour-long video. Conor McGregor is right now. Just gonna put him at D for the memes. Conor McGregor is too busy snorting cocaine and drinking and having lawsuits to even fight. So it is what it is. So is guy even a fighter anymore? Every single time, he's gonna fight this time, he's gonna fight time. Then this next thing you know, it's gonna be a very long time before he fights. The guy's not even a fighter no more. Again, this is current. This is not all time, so don't get your panties in the butt. This is current. And currently, McGregor hasn't fought in like 5 years. Last time before he got embarrassed by Poirier twice, which is not a bad thing, but your last performances have not looked good for you in particular. Like you getting whooped on. And then you're looking stiff and stale in your little 10-second minute clip highlights. Yeah, is it right now? For the memes, McGregor's D. Realistically, he probably like a B right now. Realistically, but the fact that he's not fighting, not active, and not even trying and just BSing around, I'll put him at a D tier. Pereira, I'll put him in an S tier. You can say what you want. You can say the styles, this styles, that, but that style made him a 2-division champion at the highest level. And can't nobody on this list right here, up here, or over there say they could be a world-class kickboxing champion at their weight class. Or if they hypothetically were this weight class and had this skill and had that skill, these guys would not be, or can't say they are world champions at the highest level. And Pereira was a world champion at the highest level in 2 weight classes simultaneously in kickboxing. And he came to MMA and was a 2-division champion. Not simultaneously, but he went on to be a 2-division champion in UFC, MMA, at middleweight and light heavyweight. And a very dangerous striker. And still what this has, since he's been in UFC, what has 2 losses to 2 of the best guys, Adesanya and Ankalaev. Like, he's fought some elite guys that he's been, and we look at who he's been knocking out elite strikers. He beat, he didn't knock out Blachowicz, elite striker, former champion, beat him. Knocked out Jerry, former champion. Knocked out Jamal Hill, former champion. Knocked out Jerry twice. Knocked out Adesanya with like the 2nd greatest middleweight all time. So his accolades speak for himself. S-tier striker. Say what you want about it, but he's an S-tier striker. And out of everyone on this list, by far, he has the accolades to prove it. These other guys, you can suck them off all you want. They don't have the accolades to prove it. Tommy Aspinall, I'll put him at A tier. It's really just based off his work. We haven't really seen him have to defend too much. We haven't seen really much of anything. But he's been putting guys away. And he's an interim champion. Based on how he does going forward, he could go up to S tier. He could drop down to B tier. Could drop down to C tier. But as of right now, if it ain't broke, can't say much about it. Like, if it's been working, it's been, working out for him. Fast hands, big, fast heavyweight. Amazing offense. Even based off little clips, I think his defense is notably weak in my opinion. But again, no one has made him pay for it just yet. And he's been winning. He's been looking good, so I got to put him A tier. If he was, look better on defense for me, maybe S tier based on the fact that nobody really has touched him yet in the UFC. But right now, A tier. Definitely a potential to go up or down, but I think he's a solid A tier as far as striking right now. But again, eventually he's going to get put to the test, and we'll see whether he's truly A tier or he's S tier, B tier. But is it right now, based off where he's at and based off nobody really testing him, I got to say A tier. But again, offensively, definitely dangerous. Probably offensively, S tier. With that speed and that power and that accuracy, definitely S tier as far as this pure offense. But the defense does give me concerns in the fact of that who has he really fought? Especially purely striking. He knocked out the guys that that weren't really strikers, pure striking real quick, like Curtis Blades, Pavlovich. But Volkov, he took him down. He hasn't fought Gon, and I'm pretty sure when he fight Gon, it's real Gon. If he does fight real Gon, he's gonna look to take him down. He fight John Jones, he's probably gonna have to strike, and John Jones can definitely test him in that area. But we'll see. And next up, John Jones. I'll put him at A tier. Say what you want, but John Jones has been on top for a long time for many reasons. But he's a world-round fighter. He has struck with the best fighters. He has grappled with the best fighters. And kind of similar to Mighty Mouse. But yeah, John Jones has struck with the best of them. Like, when I was with Glover Teixeira, I struck him. When I was with Gustafsson, struck with him very well in the first fight. You know, in the second fight, he beat Gustafsson everywhere. And it took away all of his mojo, like destroyed the man mentally, emotionally, confidently. But yeah, John Jones has winning with some of the best strikers. Winner in Stipe, you can say what you want about Stipe in there, but picked apart Stipe, outboxed him, outstruck him, put him away. Ain't no one ever put Stipe away with a body shot. You can say, oh, he's old, he's this, he's that. But ain't no one ever put Stipe away with a body shot. It's always been chin shots. You can say, oh, Ngannou did this guy did that. But no one has ever stopped him with a body shot. John Jones didn't knock him out with a head kick. He didn't knock him out with an elbow. He didn't knock him out with a hook. He didn't knock him out with a right hand. He knocked him out with a spinning back kick to the body. But yeah, John Jones, A tier. He has definitely improved it a lot more than a lot of guys on the list that are also A tier. And virtually undefeated. So I'll put John Jones at A tier. Again, you can say technically this, technically that, but serviceability and the level of competition that he's done against and who he has beat and how he has beat them, put him at A tier. Jerry Prohaska, I will put him at A tier. Definitely weak in the defense, but he makes it work for himself. Like some people I could say they have defensive flaws, which Jerry does, but he literally turns that flaw into offense. So he pulls you into a situation where it's kill or be killed. Like, you're gonna hit me, but I'm gonna hit you, or somebody's gonna get hit and it's gonna be me or you. Like, it's a dangerous style, but he has been very successful at that style. And really, striking wise, he has, as far as recently wise, he has only lost to Pereira, who's an S tier striker. So hard to argue with that. He's been there with some of the best guys in his weight class. Been on top, one of the top fighters at light heavyweight for many years, even in Risen when he was champion over there. Yeah, I gotta put Jerry at A. Like, it's a weird striking style, but it's highly effective, and he has done it at an elite level. Former champion, and still fighting former champions himself, and current champions, and the guy's a problem. It's still a problem. Joaquin Buckley, I'll put him at C tier. Definitely dangerous, definitely a lot of power, but his striking defense has definitely been exploited multiple times. He got knocked out by Chris Curtis, got knocked out by who else? He got knocked out multiple times. Got knocked out by Alex DiCirio. He has been exploited multiple times with that. It hasn't happened at welterweight yet, but I could see it happening in the future. But he's on a hot streak. And he's getting picked apart by Wonder Boy, this, that, and third. But I'll put him at C. Definitely dangerous. And it's not saying he's a C tier fighter. Just as far as striking, he's a C tier striker. I feel like when I look at like pretty much everyone on this list at B tier above him, pure striking, I think they would beat him. Pure striking. But he's a wrestler as well. And that threat of the takedown, and being able to be springy and catch with shots like that, that makes him dangerous. But if you just say pure striking wise, I do think he is a C tier. Again, that don't make it mean he's not dangerous. I don't mean he's not a beast. But as far as, again, pure striking, the threat of the takedown not there as much, and kind of gone off his skill is a striker, and also his history is a striker. I would say C tier. But definitely danger wise, he's definitely an S tier danger. Like, guy's very explosive, very athletic, hits very hard, and his IQ is ever improving. And he's just entering his prime. It's only going to get better. But, again, pure striking, C tier. Magomed Ankalaev, I'll put him at A tier. Ankalaev is a very good striker. Might say, oh, he's Dagestani, so he wrestles. But most of the time, he's striking. Guy has a very elite striking. Very crispy strikes, very good crispy kick, very good IQ, sets up strikes very well. And again, he's just an elite fighter. What else can I say? He's an elite fighter, and he has done it against elite competition. Nothing more needs to be said. Dragons Duplessis, I probably could put him at B, but I'll put him at A. Kind of similar to Jerry, but in his own way. It's weird, but it works. And he has been able to become a champion, and he's been able to knock off elite strikers in Adesanya and Sean Strickland to be where he's at and to stay where he's at. And that's all I'm going to say. Like, it's awkward, but it works. And technically he is skilled, but he just don't fight in a way that we are accustomed to. But again, if it ain't broke, it's working. It's working. MVP, Michael Venom Page, I'll put him at S tier. I think as far as striking, not very many people are messing with him in the striking department. He might be up there in age. We might not have got the best version of him in the UFC, but as far as pure striking, I can't really say too many people that are messing with him in the striking department. I think even like Jack Della Maddalena, pure striking, I don't think Jack messing with him. I don't think one of the boys messing with him. But hey, he's 37, 36, whatever. I mean, a couple years, maybe even a couple days, like he might just wake up and feel super old and fall off. But at his best and where we currently see him at, I don't think really too many people are messing with him. Maybe in a 25-minute fight, obviously people won't look to wrestle him as Ian Gary did. But again, pure striking, it's very hard for me to see really too many people messing with him at middleweight or welterweight. Pure striking wise, I think he's creme de la creme. I'm not going to say he's the best striker, period. I mean, that's more of a debate, but again, there's not really too many people messing with him pure striking. And he has definitely been able to shift his striking over to MMA in a way that no one has, from that his background has been able to do. You can say one boy did this, one boy that, but I think no one is creative, as dynamic as there with the karate style as he has. Flying knees, spinning back kicks, sniping shots. He's a very dangerous striker. So MVP, S tier striker, and a fighter that has come from the creme de la creme of a pure striking background and has been able to transition very well to MMA with that striking. But yeah, MVP, S tier striker. Metal Cop, I could put him at S tier, but I'll put him at A tier. I think the accolades just ain't there just yet. Like as far as, let's see how you do against Brandon Moreno. Let's see how you do against Pantoja in the rematch. You did kind of, just need to see results. Like skill wise, S tier is what I'm saying from his boxing. And also, his last fight, he did kind of win via eye poke, so that's some points deduction right there. I did post a video of best boxer in the UFC, and I did put him as the best boxer in the UFC as of right now. 2025? Earlier this year. But that eye poke definitely deducted points for me, so I have him at A tier, but good defense, good reflexes, fast combinations, good shift. Like, he's just a very high-level striker. And I think, in my opinion, like the best boxer in MMA right now today. But he got to work on that eye poking or limiting that eye poking. Not work on it to use it again, but to not have it happen again. But if they're not fouling you, they're not making you pay for doing it, hey, get away with it. But I need to see him do that against higher level competition. He could be an S tier. And I need to see him draw back from the eye poke. But as far as the skills, the reads, the defense, he has it all. He's the total package as far as a striker. Maybe the kicks a little bit, but as far as I'm going to say offensive and defensive and footwork and all that stuff, that package. Obviously, there's some strikers that have, they're more well-rounded. They do more knees. They do more kicks. They got Muay Thai clean. They're more well-rounded. But as far as, again, the bread and butter offense, defense, sticking and moving and countering, he can counter. He can move. He can stick. He can do it all. I think overall he can do that better than anyone on this list, in my opinion. Metal Cop can. And at a speed that no one can. He has a very fast processor. Jalen Turner. At one point, a potential that could be an A tier striker, B tier, maybe even S tier striker. But the mental, especially now I'm coming out and saying his mental weak, it just only confirms it. The guy just mentally breaks out there time and time again. I would say I could put him at D tier, but I'll put him at C tier. Definitely offensive killer, but the mental is just not there. Let's say offensively a problem, defensively a little bit not there, and mentally not there. So he's C tier. Guram could say the same, but I'm gonna put you at a D tier. The accolades not there. You have all these people backing you, and you just flat out choke. You had Kamza in your corner, then you had Ilya in your corner. You just flat out choked, and it's been multiple fights now that he just crumbled in. So just mentally weak. Technically very skilled, very proficient. Maybe on a test he could score A, maybe an S, but based on what he's shown and how when it really mattered, got to put you at D tier. Again, it's probably a little wrong to put him here, but I think he earned it. He earned that D tier. Could be C, definitely not B, but he earned his D tier. Slava Claus, I'll put you at C tier. Chinny, offensively dangerous, defensively pretty weak, but offensively pretty dangerous, but defense kind of puts you down to a C. And also accolades. Who have you beat? The accolades ain't there. The defense is not really there. The accolades not really there. The resume is not really there. So you got to be at a C. Max Holloway. Going to put Max at A tier. Um, has the worst, statistically, he has the worst defense in UFC history because he's the most hit fighter in UFC history. He also hits people more than anyone, but he also gets hit more than anyone. So defense definitely taken back from there. Coming off a knockout loss. Has 2 losses to Poirier, 3 losses to Volkanovski. Doesn't really do the best job of checking leg kicks or even checking them at all. That's how Volkanovski was able to, a big part of how Volkanovski was able to beat him 3 times. But yeah, offense is there. One of the best boxers in the game. Skilled striker. The resume speaks for itself. He was able to knock out Gaethje. Able to beat some of the best strikers out there. But yeah, he was able to beat some of the best strikers out there. Style on Cater. Style on this guy. Style on that guy. Knock out Korean Zombie. Like, again, he has amazing accolades. He was the number 1 contender at, he was a former champion at featherweight. Then once he lost to Volkanovski, he was like the number 1 guy for a long time till he wasn't. Till he decided to move up. If he wanted to, he could always stay like number 1. Not say always, but yeah, he could still be that number 1 guy at featherweight. But I think it's overdue that he comes up to 55, and I think that's what he's doing. But yeah, amazing striker. Great spinning back kicks. Good slips, good body shots. Good all-around arcs, good kicks, spinning back kicks, good high, low, mid. He attacks everything. Good volume, good reads, good eye. Just the overall package. The main thing with Holloway is just defense. The defense is his big flaw. If his defense was better, he'd be S tier. But that defense is definitely holding him back a lot. But that is why we love him, though. He goes out there, gives it his all, takes it, he gives it. He definitely doesn't, is not as hittable as his stats make him seem, but he definitely gets hit a lot. But yeah, defense is definitely holding him back. But Holloway A tier. Sean Strickland. Shawnee Strickland. Unfortunately, I'll put you at B tier. Could be A tier. You can say, why is he here? Why is D tier? Why that? But I'll put him at B tier. Sean Strickland, I just feel like he's too limited. And I feel like once people realize that or are fully able to realize that, his opponents, I think that B tier will make a lot more sense. Sean Strickland likes to constantly be in your face, but he does not like to have you constantly in his face. Once you start to put pressure on him and threaten him with power and put him on his back foot, you see him break really like Drix in the second fight, like him against Drix in the second fight, like kind of him against Cannonier. Yes, the Cannonier fight was close. You could argue that Cannonier lost that fight, but Cannonier was able to get the respect of Strickland and have Strickland backing up a lot in that fight, and that's why he lost that fight. When we look at all the fights that Sean Strickland primarily lost, it was mostly him getting pushed back. Even Usman was able to have great success striking against him because he was able to push him back. Once you have to push Strickland back, you just start to see him fall apart. He doesn't really have no counters. Doesn't really attack the body too much. And is really jab, spam happy. Like 1-2 teep. Like teeps and 1-2. Like very limited striker. Doesn't really attack the body too much until he has you hurt. But again, it's effective. It's won him a world title. It's kept him as a top fighter for a long time. But he limits himself. And I think at this point, he's truly cemented himself as a B tier striker. Probably A tier, maybe S tier fighter. Probably like an A tier fighter overall throughout his legacy. But the striker, I think it's going to get exploited more and more, the flaws that have always been there. And he himself kind of settled into that because he's benefited from it. But once you benefit from, I guess you fall in love with something because it works and you don't try to really evolve as a fighter, you get stuck in that spot and people start to exploit it. And again, people are going to start to exploit that in him. Like that cardio kickboxing he does and not really sit on his punches as much and not working on his power shots as much to make himself a more dangerous fighter and not working on his arsenal, his selection, and his striking arsenal as much. Again, that's going to come back to bite him. And I think that's going to truly cement it, and it's going to age well that Strickland's a B-tier striker. Despite him beating Adesanya and dominating Adesanya, I think he's a B-tier striker. Jose Aldo, last but not least. This is not Jose Aldo throughout his career. This is Jose Aldo where he's at currently. And kind of similar to kind of what you can say about these other fighters. Like, once you get predictable and people see the game plan and how to beat you, it becomes predictable. So he's older. He's predictable. He's not as hungry anymore. And it is where he is right now. I got to put Jose Aldo is a B tier where he's currently at. He's still very dangerous as he showed in his last fight. He's still very dangerous. He retired now. But is a right now, not to say all time, but is a right now as a fighter 2025, Aldo's a B. Still one of the most dangerous fighters. First round, he looked like an S tier still in a lot of these fights. But the cardio's not there. And when guys can work him, you can clearly see him start to fade very heavily. And that's just the issue. Like again, S tier first round, but it's that cardio. It's that pacing. And it's also the fact that people have seen the tape on him and he's been around so long. He's older, not hungry as much anymore. The gas tank is not there. And people know that. And that all leads to him being a B tier. But great offense, great defense, great reflexes. But doesn't deal well with pressure. And also doesn't have the greatest track record when going in there with elite strike. So what's holding him back is, again, the cardio, the fact people have tape on him and they're using it against him, and also his track record against strikers. And also, him just being, by his, he's still an elite fighter, but by his standards and his legacy, he's washed. He's washed. But, yeah, that's my tier list. So you can see the S tier. Just 3 people S tier currently. Topuria as far as striking. Pereira and MVP. And, give me a rating on how you feel about my tier list. You think it was a A+ tier list, B+ tier list, C+, or you think I got an F? Like, what y'all think? How y'all think my tier list? Do y'all like my tier list as far as strikers? Again, this is not as far as fighters. This is not as far as grapplers. This is not as far as how cute y'all think they look, or how ugly you think they look, or how much you like their nicknames, or this and that, or how much you like these fighters. It's about, do you think as far as striking wise, do you think my tier list was pretty solid as far as striking wise? But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. But that has been my tier list. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.